Size matters. I mean, when it comes to your camper van.
Hello and welcome to Vanlife Goodies.
Get me out of here.
Follow us as we share our fun in our VW T5 campervan. All the free park-ups we find, the food we enjoy, honest product reviews,
Mini solar panel.
and van life tips and tricks.
So this is going to be a video on how I made this pop-top surround for under 50 quid.
And of course, all the adventures in between.
Oh, refreshing. Stop on that.
Good.
Me and Macy are going to a rave in Southport in the rain. We made it! Thank you, Abdul.
And bad.
But we just got a flat tyre.
Rain or shine. Click the subscribe so you don't miss a video.
This is Vanlife Goodies. Welcome to Campervan Chats, where we're going to talk about the size of your campervan and the pros and cons of different sizes. And I want to know what you think is the best size van. So I am in my T5 VW campervan 2004. It has a pop top so you can stand up when the pop top is up, but for everyday use it's brilliant because it can get under the 2-metre barriers of most car parks. I tend not to go in high-rise car parks just because although I can fit, it makes me very anxious. It is pretty much the width of a large car, and because the high up seating position, it's really easy to drive. It's great for your everyday use to use as an everyday vehicle. So the downsides, the cons of a smaller camper van is probably less storage space and possibly the width of the bed, depending what layout you have and depending how big you are. The width that we have is probably a double bed, which is okay, but at home I've got like a super king, so I like a bit more space and I like to spread out. You do have side storage and you have storage under the rock and roll bed. I've also got storage in my double swivel seat, which is really handy because when it's turned you can put all your clothes in there, and when it's not turned it's, you know, it's got all your clothes in there still. But that's excellent storage. I always think that the ideal camper van for everyday use is probably something like a T5, something of this size but with a permanent high top, because a permanent high top would mean that you can always stand up in it and you've got all that extra storage. Now you lose this drop down double bed that you've got here, so you have a double pop top bed here should you wish to use it if you've got kids or an extra person, but you do gain the extra storage. But of course if it's a high top you can't get under any barriers, so it very much depends on your needs. Next week you will see us trial a long wheelbase. I think it's a Citroen Relay long wheelbase. Now this is something I've always been anxious about having because it's long wheelbase and I think it'll be hard to drive. I'm actually filming this video after we've borrowed it, so I will tell you what I kind of gained from that. A larger camper van does tend to reduce the places you will explore because you've got a bigger van and you're not quite sure if you get to the end you're going to be stuck. Whether that improves with time, I don't know. If you've got a long wheelbase, let me know in the comments. Are you a little bit less likely to go and explore somewhere that's maybe got a really tight road, or do you just go anyway and, you know, get stuck and, you know, who cares? Have the adventure if you like. Learn to do reversing well. This long wheelbase was, the pros of it were the extra comfort, the ability to stand up straight away as soon as you get in, the extra storage, more storage than we could ever use, somewhere to sleep and somewhere to sit. There was just so much space, and it meant that when you were parked up there was just so much more comfort, so much more comfortable, so much more space to enjoy, and if you had a bigger family, they'd have their own space too. So I think just much more space, much more storage, and if you're doing longer trips, you're going to need storage, because if you think even just travelling the UK, it can be sunny one day and chucking it down the next. So you do kind of need a range of things to clothes, for instance, activities. You know, it's nice to have a bit more storage. The downsides, of course, of a long wheelbase would be just fitting in parking spaces, manoeuvring, although the power steering on this long wheelbase that we used was very good. But we went to Aldi and we fit in the parking space, but we overhang quite a bit. So it was, you know, there would be places it would be very tricky to get into. So tell me your thoughts. Do you have a long wheelbase? Do you have a short wheelbase? Do you have a long wheelbase T5, which would be smaller than a long wheelbase big van, you know, like a Peugeot, or sorry, a Citroen Relay? Do you have a T5 high top, and does that give you the extra storage, and do you find that a problem, or do you find that's kind of the best of both worlds? I tend to think that maybe if we get a bigger van, that we would go for maybe a medium wheelbase, something that is not too big, not too small, somewhere in the middle. I used to drive for DHL many years ago, and I had a big van then, so I'm kind of used to driving something bigger. So I think I'd get used to that. I think you just get used to whatever you've got, don't you? And I think the temptation with the bigger van, of course, is to carry a lot more stuff, which then you're carrying around all day. So I think it depends what you're using your vehicle for. Anyway, I've written a few notes in my... Okay, so for us, we like to spend our campervanning time in the countryside, away from busyness, away from people. We like visiting cities sometimes, but we're not really city people, because we kind of live in the suburbs anyway, so we like to get away from that when we go away. And I think that matters. If you have a smaller van, it's much easier to go and visit cities, because it's effectively a car. So it's much easier to park. You're not going to be restricted. You're not going to worry about being too big in the cities. Whereas I think if you have a much bigger van, you probably might have an electric bike, so that when you visit a city, or you want to visit a city, you'd park on the outskirts and bike it in to make it a bit easier. I kind of think it depends how you like to travel. If you like to travel to cities and busy places, then a smaller van will possibly be more easy to manoeuvre and easy to park. Whereas a bigger van could be quite a worry, actually. I think I'd worry about being in a long wheelbase in, say, you know, Liverpool or somewhere. So I think where you like to holiday has an impact on the size of van. Equally, I suppose if you like to be on campsites all the time, then it doesn't matter what size van you've got. Apart from something that I have realised when we had this long wheelbase, you'll see next week, we didn't go to any campsites, but when I looked at campsites, because it's over 6 metres or 5 metres, a lot of them consider you a motorhome, which means you're on the hard standing, which means you're in the lines, you know, which I kind of don't like. I like to be in the countryside. I like to be on a field in the middle of nowhere, even if I'm on a campsite. I don't like to be in lines of caravans and motorhomes. It just doesn't feel like camping. It feels like being at home in a terraced house. That's just my thoughts. I mean, each to their own. So I think, you know, if you like to be in a field in the middle of nowhere, then a smaller camper van like a T5 is ideal, because you can often go on the campsites that, you know, you're not going to get stuck in the mud, if you like, because of the weight of your camper van. So I've said before, it's much easier if you use your van as your daily drive, your school run, you're getting to work and back, then a smaller van, without a doubt, is cheaper to run and much easier to use. If, however, you can walk to work, or you work from home, something like that, then it kind of doesn't really matter if you have a bigger van, because when you travel away, you've got more space for enjoying your activities, and you've got more space for storage, and you know, it just really depends how you're going to use a van. I probably waffled on the same thing there. So bed size, I'm 6'2", which is tricky because you either have something like this, which is small widthways that pulls out, that you have to make up every time, but it's a good use of space because it's a settee as seat when it's not in use, and then it's a bed when it is in use, and the length doesn't matter because it's the length of the van. If you want a fixed bed and you're not as tall as me, I think probably under 5'7", maybe 5'8", maybe, then a widthways, you can get bigger vans where the bed goes widthways. So if you can sleep widthways on a van, not this kind of van, but a bigger van, then that's ideal because you're not taking all of that extra length in just the bed being up all the time. I couldn't do that. Next week you'll see this Citroen Relay just wasn't, we had to sleep kind of on an angle, so that kind of didn't work for us. We need a lengthways bed to be comfortable. You don't actually realise how much you stretch out at night until you can't stretch out, you know. We once saw a camper van, it was a Transit high top, and they had like a fixed double at the back, but it pulled forward and then you could kind of drop the mattress. So when it wasn't in bed mode, you could kind of lie and chill on it, but then you'd just pull it forward to be in bed mode. It was a really good kind of setup, if you like, but you didn't have a long wheelbase van. So that's something to think about. What have you got? What layout have you got, and does it work for you? And are you 6'2", and how have you managed that? Or are you really short and you're in a T5 with a widthways bed? Are you like 3 foot? Well, probably 4 foot to be fair. Another point to consider, how many people, I'm literally sweating in here, how many people do you need to accommodate? These vans, you could probably fit 2 adults, 2 children, but you haven't got a lot of storage for 2 adults, 2 children. But we've done it. We did it when the kids were little. The kids wouldn't fit up there now. It would feel far too cramped for them. But then it depends, if you're used to a little one-man tent, then I suppose it's more comfortable than that. I did do a video once, I'll stick it in the link below, of can you fit 5 people in a camper van, and unofficially you can. 2 on the rock and roll bed, 2 in the pop top, and 1 going across the seats at the front, but I don't think it would be very comfortable, but you could do it if you had to, at a push. I think a bigger van allows for more options if you have a family, maybe 4 of you, and you want space to eat and space to, you know, like a bed space that's theirs all the time. So I think a longer van can accommodate that, but again, you've got the downsides of where you can take that longer van. So I think assessing your needs as far as the size of your family and how you're going to use it, and just remember as well that whilst you might use your camper van now for 4 people, like us, our kids don't want to come with us now. Or if they do, they're in a pop tent because they don't want to be in the camper van, they want their own space. So, you know, things do change, so maybe kind of think long term when you're planning your build. So I've put here ability to stand up, which I've kind of mentioned. I think some people have these T5s without a pop top or a high top, and I think that would drive me mad. It'd certainly do my knees in. I love the fact that when I'm in here, I can put the pop top up and stand up when I'm cooking. We just put it up all the time if we're stationary. The problem you've got is that if you're wild camping, like not on a campsite, people can tell you're camping because you have a pop top up, whereas if you had a permanent high top, they wouldn't necessarily know whether you're just parked or whether you're camping. So things to consider. So to conclude, I think it all depends on who you're accommodating, what you're using the van for, what things you're willing to sacrifice on. Is it being able to drive into cities, or is it that you want a wider bed, or is it that you want to get into cities and you don't mind less storage, you're going to travel light? It depends how many people you're trying to accommodate, and you know, how you're going to use your van. So put some if you've got an opinion, please politely put it in the comments, because people watch these videos when they're deciding what they want, and they will go and read the comments. Or if you've watched this video, go and read the comments, because people will comment some really good ideas and things I maybe haven't thought of, and I just think it's super helpful. These camper chats, the point is that we have a chat via the comments. So please tell me your thoughts, tell me what you think is the best size van, and tell me why you think that is and why that suits you, and anything that maybe I've not considered. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, go and subscribe. And next week, don't forget to come back on Sunday, 10:30 is when I usually upload, to watch us in Bess, which is a camper van we hired, a long wheelbase Citroen Relay, and we hired it from Quirky Campers to try out what it's like having a bigger van. So until then, thanks for watching, and don't forget to put your comments below. Bye.